Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Don Dickey, a member of this church, and it's my privilege to welcome you here on this wonderful Sunday, which sort of suggests maybe fall is coming. We'd like to set aside time to welcome our guests and visitors, and we do that now. Do we have any members who have brought a guest or visitor today? If so, would you be kind enough to stand and introduce them? Let us know where they're from. Yes.
This is Stephanie, and she's moved back into the area. Maybe supposed to Philadelphia for a while. She's been here and found it. And I'm glad she's in and hope to see her.
Welcome. Do we have any other members who've brought a guest? Are there any visitors or who would feel comfortable standing? And if so, stand up, let us know your name, where you're from. Okay. We have a guest musician today.
I am very happy to have today my good friend and good friend of all souls. She's been here before. Shelby Floyd is here, and she'll be helping us with the song. And her husband, Jeff Burton.
Well, welcome. One of our parts of our... Oh, yes, please.
I brought a guest this morning. Gant. She is a former professor of world religions at Oxford University.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you. Life has a way of inserting little lessons if we pay attention. Part of our sermon today is on awakening, and that can happen on a societal level and also on an individual level. Back in the 60s, hairspray was real popular, and the ladies would buff and fluff their heads and grab the hairspray to keep everything in place. And I always thought it was very humorous to see a story in the paper about some lady who grabbed the bathroom deodorant instead of the hairspray. I'm sure it made for an interesting day at the office. But I have to confess, I was a bit smug. I felt a little superior. I acknowledge women were superior in many, many ways, but in the bathroom deodorant department, I felt I had the edge. Until, after decades of being superior and smug, I found myself brushing my teeth with athlete's foot medicine. That was a light bulb moment. Oh, it is possible to grab the wrong container when you are doing one thing mechanically and thinking about someone else. The smugness, the superiority, they just evaporated in an instant. So I come before you a more humble, more empathetic, and hopefully wiser person. Our minister wants to let you know that about 10 minutes following the end of the service, you'll have a chance to say your respects to our intern, Rebecca Gant. We will have a discussion on the ongoing hearings that have occurred this week, which are momentous. And so plan on attending. It'll take her a minute to set up. Oh, and for the inquiring minds, it's greasy and very bland.
We're going to learn a new hymn this morning. It's not greasy or bland. The melody is from the Zuni tradition, and it's called Rise and Rise. And Sarah's going to help us learn that. The first words are very difficult. They are Rise and Rise.
Rise,
Yeah.
rise, rise.
And the same thing. Here we go. That sounds like this. 2, 3, 4.
Rise, 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 rise.
Sarah will sing the next verse for us. 2, 3.
The dawn is here, day is calling me. Oh, you wanted to keep
Those phrases.
Okay.
So the first phrase ends with Sing the whole thing. The next song, which is the same as that song. 2, 3, 4.
Rise, arise, arise. Rise, arise, arise. My dawn is here, day is calling me. My dawn is here, life is calling me. Ever grateful, ever worthy me. Ever faithful, ever sturdy me. Rise, arise, arise. Rise, arise, arise.
We'll sing that after we offer chalice. Thank you. Great singing.
Good morning. Our opening words come from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. She writes, "We believe you. Your stories, held too long in secret and shame, are safe here. You are safe here to grieve and to rage, to reckon and reconcile, to return and restore. There is a place here for every piece of yourself, bodies and spirits, voices and breath, broken and beautiful, bitter, and still refusing to give up hope. In this autumn light, there remains a path for beginning again. Do not hold back your heartbreak or your joy, your vision for the world that is already here and also not yet. Let every tender longing of your heart be an offering for this time and for this community that we are building here. We are building here already a new way. The will, the courage, the faith to be the leaders, the people, the parents, the friends, the citizens our world and we need now. The change begins now. Come, let us worship together. Every Sunday, we begin our worship with the kindling of the chalice. This act connects us with Unitarian Universalists around the world, and this chalice reminds us of the history of our free faith. May its light help show us the way to contribute to a more just world.
Good morning. My name is Sean, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
And now please rise, embody your spirit, and let us speak together our covenant and remain as we sing our opening song. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Life
arise, 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 arise. I'd like to invite the children who would like to come forward, or anyone who's feeling beyond heart. Come on up. I have some things to share with you. You can come closer. Come closer. So my name's Rebecca, and I am a student learning how to be a minister. So I'm in school like maybe some of you are. Anybody else in school? Yeah. And because this is my first Sunday with you, and I'll be here at this church for 2 years, I thought maybe we could take this chance just to get to know each other a little bit. So I brought a bag with some things in it, and you are welcome to come and take something out. These are things that will give you a clue about who I am. And I hope that through the rest of these 2 years, I'll get a chance to know who you are. So go ahead and take something out. Everybody take something out. And that box has 3 things in it. Come here. And the bag is something too. Somebody want to hold the bag? Okay. All right, you hold the bag. All right, somebody holds one of the things up. Let's see. How about this apple? What do you think that might be a clue about me?
You like apples?
I do like apples. It's another clue, though. It's a clue about a job I've had before. No, I didn't work at an apple orchard. What? A teacher, yes. I was a teacher a long time ago. I taught English and Spanish. Who else has something else they want to hold up? Okay, you found a necklace. What does that necklace have on it? Has a chalice. What do you think that means? Yeah, I'm a UU. I'm a Unitarian Universalist. Somebody else hold up something. What's that? It could be me and my sister, but it's actually my daughters. When they were little, they are now 22 and 19 years old. Yeah. Oh, will you show that to everybody? Show those to everybody. What do you think those glasses are about? Don't know? It's something that I like to be silly sometimes. So I brought those silly glasses because they make me laugh. What else? What is that? A hotel key card. I do travel a lot, especially these 3 years while I'm in school, because my school is in Chicago. And I don't have to be there all the time, but when I go there, I have to have a place to stay. Also, hotel is kind of a clue that I do like to go see the world, go travel around. What else? You have a book. Anybody know Junie B. Jones books? Yeah. When I was a little girl, I loved to read. And Junie B. Jones wasn't around yet, but there was a little girl in books at that time who was Ramona. And she was a lot like Junie B. Jones. She got in trouble a lot because she had a good imagination and was kind of wild sometimes. What else is in that box? Oh, what do you think that is? Yeah. It has UU on it, and it has some symbols. That's from Lawrence, the church in Lawrence. We gave those to all the kids for their backpacks. It tells so that they could talk to their friends maybe about their church if they wanted to. Can you read what that says?
All I want to do is change the world.
Yep, that's one of my favorite necklaces. All I want to do is change the world. And what's that? You know what that is? Yeah, it is a pin. Those are my Girl Scout pins. I was a Girl Scout starting in 2nd grade all the way until now. I'm still a Girl Scout. You are? We can talk about it another time. Is that all the things? You're hungry? I have an apple. So is there any other objects? Oh, just the bag. Well, I brought that bag. I made that bag, and that's something else about me is that I like to make things out of yarn and paper and with markers. I like to do art. You like to do art. So is there anything that I talked about that's something maybe that you like? Any of those things? Or that you have done? Maybe we can find a time later to have a conversation. I would love that. All right. Thank you for coming up. If you will put the objects back in the bag, I would appreciate it. And we will sing you to your classes.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Westra, and I'm one of your newer board members. Twice a month, we use our offertory to put our beliefs in action by supporting a local group working towards social justice in our community. The other 2 Sundays of the month, we collect the offertory to benefit All Souls, your spiritual and community home. A beautiful new gallery space and a long-awaited elevator are wonderful to have, but so are running water and electricity. Your generosity today helps keep the doors open so we can continue to experience quality programs, provide a refuge from the challenges of the times, and space to work for a more just world. Please give generously.
Just like that river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's really up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. I go to the movies and I go downtown, but somebody keeps telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. So I go to my brother and I said, brother,
able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. So I go to my brother and I said, brother, help me, please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. There's been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I know I'm able, I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come.
Some things are just plain inspirational. Please join me in our dedication of the offering to the good works to which it can achieve. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
As a clergy person, I'd like to welcome you all to the apocalypse. Pull up a chair and make yourself uncomfortable. If, when you think of the apocalypse, you picture a scary, doom-filled punishment from above, you are not alone. Originally, though, apocalyptic literature existed not to scare the bejesus out of children so they would be good boys and girls, but to proclaim a big, hope-filled idea that dominant powers are not ultimate powers. Empires fall, tyrants fade, systems die, and God's still around. In Greek, the word apocalypse means to uncover, to peel away, to show what's underneath. That's what this country has been experiencing in recent months. There has not been a sudden uptick in sexual misconduct and assault in our country. The Me Too and Time's Up movements are simply exposing what was already there. The male domination at the center of the sexual harassment issue is being revealed apocalyptically and in prime time. Wokeness and the policy change are a start, but not enough to dig out the full infection. This is why I welcome our moment of uncovering. We need to see how deep the heresy of domination runs, and then remind one another that dominant powers are not ultimate powers.
I'm going to talk about hope today, but not yet. I'm angry. I've been angry for a while now. I spent this past summer as a student chaplain at St. Luke's Health System. Part of my assignment was leading spirituality groups and seeing individual patients
in the behavioral health unit. That unit is a safe place for patients who are in danger of hurting themselves or others. They can come for a short time and have a respite from their lives while they figure out what's next. As I led the groups and I met with individuals, I heard story after story of people, usually women, who have survived sexual assault as children and as adults at the hands of adults, usually men. They shared with me how that assault had affected the rest of their lives. And it ended with a stay in the hospital. Story after story came out, and the patients asked me questions that I could not answer. Why did this happen? Why didn't my parent protect me? Where's God in all of this? I spent most of my summer feeling helpless. I had the same questions, and the best that I could do was to let them know that someone cared. But more than feeling helpless, I was furious. I was furious on behalf of these patients and the people I love who have also been assaulted. Why did this happen? Why don't adults protect children? Why doesn't our society protect women? And the abusers, I suspect that many of them had also been abused as children and were just passing on. This year has brought other events to be angry about. We've seen families separated at the border and children in cages. We have seen the effects of the mistreatment of our earth with stronger storms, wildfires, drought, and flooding. We have seen the continued killing of unarmed people of color and our failure to bring their killers to justice. Gun violence rages, and our government, which is supposed to be for the people, is mostly working for the richest and most privileged among us. It's discouraging, and it's infuriating. And this past week, we as a country have been seeing the apocalypse that Reverend Nadia Bolz-Weber describes happening before our eyes, as the hearings on Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court appointment have uncovered more of the misogyny that exists in our society. I'm mad. I'll get to hope, but I'm mad. In the last few years, in addition to the festering sore of misogyny, we're also seeing more clearly the infections of sexism, homophobia, white supremacy, ableism, etc., all the intersecting systems of oppression at work in our society. I think it's most apparent to those of us who have been working to get woke. Because getting woke means that you can no longer pretend that you don't know about oppression and its effects on all of us. And that you can also not be asleep to the part you play in supporting those structures. Our faith encourages us to face our part and to find ways to dismantle systems of oppression. We are all in this together. As more of us wake up and see these systemic oppressions, we're less willing to stay silent. We're seeing that something has to change, and that we are the ones we have been waiting for. More and more of us are rising up and making our voices heard in marches, in letters, in calls to our representatives, by attending meetings and wearing our t-shirts and our buttons. The fresh waking up and speaking up of people working for liberation has had an effect, but it might not be the effect we want. The effect sometimes is that the forces of oppression are also waking up and rising up and pushing back. This pushback directed at activists and at the original targets of the oppressive systems. The waking up of seekers of justice is a wonderful thing, but the pushback that results is discouraging. An endless escalation of efforts on both sides doesn't get us anywhere but more divided. And yet, I have hope. What if? What if what seems like an ever-worsening situation is just really a natural, typical, predictable response to the experience of losing expected rewards, what behavioral psychologists would call an extinction burst on a system-wide level? If you remember psychology from school, an extinction burst
may occur when the usual reward for certain behaviors is withdrawn. When the reward can no longer be expected, the person or the subject, instead of decreasing their behavior, temporarily increases their behavior. In addition, the subject may try some new behaviors and/or emotional responses or even aggression to get the reward. In our society, a group of people who have enjoyed the benefits of privilege in their skin color or gender or socioeconomic class or other identity might be looking around and seeing that their days of being the top dog are numbered. Or, at the very least, they might see that they might have to share some of those benefits they've received as a privileged group. That group's benefits are being taken away, and it's understandable that this might result in some new behaviors, some emotional responses, even some aggression. Can anyone think of an example maybe from this past week? This idea that what we are seeing is actually an extinction burst gives me a lot of hope. Or if the behavioral psychology approach doesn't work for you, try this one. I've also found hope in the ideas expressed in a book by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone called Active Hope. This is a book about how our world, our environment, our economy, and our society got into the mess it's in today, and it gives us some guidance on how we can fix it. The book casts our society today there's a way to talk about it in 3 stories. The first story they call business as usual. In business as usual, economic growth is essential for prosperity. Nature is a commodity to be used for human purposes. Promoting consumption is good for the economy. And the central plot is all about getting ahead, which means that the problems of other peoples, nations, and species are not our concern. It's basically modern life in the United States. It's a path that we've been on for a while now, and with global media, other countries are lining up to do the same. And the stress we're putting on the planet is starting to show. The consequence of continuing with business as usual are many, but the greatest is that situation, which can be described in another story of our time, called The Great Unraveling. So the second story, The Great Unraveling, includes economic decline, resource depletion, climate change, social division and war, and mass extinction of species. These are the 2 stories we exist in today in the early 21st century. But you may have noticed that not everybody lives in the same story. You may know someone whose worldview means that they live in a different story from the one you live in. And it's possible that each of us spends our day moving between the 2 stories of business as usual, buy more things, shop more things, drive more than we have to, and that realization that those actions are not leading anywhere good. When the frightening hallmarks of the Great Unraveling come up, most people have one of 2 responses. Either, it's not that bad, or it's so bad, and the world is so far gone that there's no turning back. But there's a third story, a third group, and maybe you're among them, that believes that we are headed in a hopeful direction, that there is a story of a deliberate turnaround, a correction, and a careful easing down. The authors call this third story the Great Turning, and they say that it is the essential adventure of our time. It involves the transition from a doomed economy of industrial growth to a life-sustaining society committed to the recovery of the world. And they assert that this transition is already underway, even though we may not be able to see clear evidence. In the book that the All Souls Board is reading together called Emergent Strategy, the author, Adrienne Marie Brown, refers to this idea, saying, "We are all the protagonists of what might be called the great turning, the change, the new economy, the new world." Michelle Alexander, whom you might know from the book The New Jim Crow, wrote an opinion piece in the New York Times just this week that echoes some of these ideas.
It's called We Are Not the Resistance. Those of us committed to the radical evolution of American democracy are not merely resisting an unwanted reality. To the contrary, the struggle for human freedom and dignity extends back centuries. It's likely to continue for generations. In the words of Vincent Harding, a great yet lesser-known hero of the Black freedom struggle, the long, continuous yearning and reaching for freedom flows throughout history like a river, sometimes powerful, tumultuous, roiling with life, at other times meandering and turgid, covered with ice and snow of seemingly endless winters, all too often streaked and running with blood. Donald Trump's election represents a surge of resistance to this rapidly swelling river, an effort to build not just a wall, but a dam to hold the river back. A new nation is struggling to be born, a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-faith, egalitarian democracy in which every life, every voice truly matters. We've seen glimpses of this new nation at Standing Rock, in the streets of Ferguson, in the eyes of the dreamers, in the voices of teenagers from Parkland in Chicago, and at LGBT pride celebrations, the Women's March, the camps of Occupy Wall Street. Confederate statues are coming down as new memorials and statues are going up to honor victims of lynching and the courageous souls who fought to abolish slavery and to end Jim Crow. For many of us, Barack Obama's election to the presidency symbolized the imminent birth of this new America. Yet many white people feared that their privileged status, their identity, their entire way of life would die in the transition. So the reaction was swift and fierce. We shouldn't have been so surprised. Today, many of us working to end mass deportation and mass incarceration do not want to simply resist those systems. We aim to end them and reimagine the meaning of justice in America. By the same token, those battling climate change and building movements for economic justice, they understand that merely tinkering with our political and economic systems will not end poverty, will not avert climate disaster, nor will mere resistance to the status quo. As the saying goes, what you resist persists. Another world is possible, but we can't achieve it through resistance alone.
Vincent Harding's image of a river streaked with blood to represent humanity's yearning toward freedom is powerful. And the idea that what seems like an increase in hatefulness and injustice is actually the resistance to this new world struggling to be born, that's hopeful. None of the thinkers that I've referred to so far have said that this new world will come into being without effort. Joanna Macy says that we can bring about the great turning by acting in alignment with our values, supporting new structures, and this is key, learning new perspectives. Adrienne Marie Brown says that it is the small things that make the big things, that what we practice on a small scale helps create what happens in the larger world. Michelle Alexander says that bringing the new world into being won't happen through our resistance, but instead will require us to end oppressive systems and reimagine the meaning of justice in America. I'm sure that many of us in this room have been and will continue to do the work of reimagining the meaning of justice. And that, most of all, gives me hope. Knowing that people like us are giving their time and passion to the work and learning new ways of thinking and being is comforting. When we're woke to the realities of systemic oppression, to the fact that whether we are the oppressors or the oppressed, these systems diminish all of us, then we know we can no longer keep the lid on. We must peel it back. And peel we will, because all of us are worthy of that work. All of our pain and all of our struggle, all of our passion and all of our work for liberation, we all matter. And each of our small acts of kindness, compassion, and caring adds up to a force strong enough to push this new world we long for into being. The song that Shelby's going to close with is from the film An Inconvenient Truth, the documentary made in 2006 with former Vice President Al Gore. The film posits that we can turn the environmental crisis around, and it ends with these words. Each one of us is a cause of global warming, but each one of us can make a choice to change that. The solutions are in our hands. We just have to have the determination to make that happen. As you listen to the song, if you're exhausted from witnessing the apocalypse this week, just take a break. Just listen, let the music wash over you. We're in this together and we need you to be well. But if you have some energy, I want to encourage you to think about what new steps you might be able to do to help birth this new world. Ways you want to wake up, ways that you want to speak up, show up. If you have the energy, those of us who are worn out need you. There's hope, and each small action toward our collective liberation matters. And after we all rest and gather ourselves, we can wake up, shake up, speak out, move, and work to bring a new world, the beloved community, into being. May it be so.
Have I been sleeping? I've been so still, afraid of crumbling. Have I been careless, dismissing all the distant rumblings? Take me where I am supposed to be, to comprehend the things that I can't see. 'Cause I need to move, I need to wake up, I need to change, I need to shake up, I need to speak out. Something's got to break up, 'cause I've been asleep, and I need to wake up now. And as a child, I danced like it was 1999, and my dreams were wild. The promise of this new world would be mine. Now I am throwing off the carelessness of youth to listen to an inconvenient truth. 'Cause I need to move, I need to wake up, I need to change, I need to shake up, I need to speak out. Something's got to break up, 'cause I've been asleep, and I need to wake up now. I am not an island, I am not alone. I am my intentions, trapped here in this flesh and bone. And I need to move, I need to wake up, I need to change, I need to shake up, I need to speak out. Oh, something's gotta break up, 'cause I've been asleep, and I need to wake up now. I wanna change, I need to shake up, I need speak out. Oh, something's gotta break out, 'cause I've been asleep and I need to wake up now.
Amen. The poet and essayist Adrienne Rich wrote in a 1972 essay, she wrote in part, "It's exhilarating to be alive in a time of awakening consciousness. It can also be confusing, disorienting, and painful. I am pleased that we have one another and this community for support and challenge as we live through this time on earth together." And now I will invite you to stand or to rise, embody your spirit, and we'll sing together our closing hymn, "Come and Go With Me." Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be awakening in that land. There'll be awakening in that land. There'll be awakening in that land where I'm bound. There'll be awakening in that land. There'll be awakening in that land. There'll be awakening in that land where I'm bound. There'll be courage in that land. There'll be courage in that land. There'll be courage in that land where I'm bound. There'll be courage in that land. There'll be courage in that land. There'll be courage in that land where I'm bound. There'll be changes in that land. There'll be changes in that land. There'll be changes in that land where I'm bound. There'll be changes in that land. There'll be changes in that land. There'll be changes in that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. We extinguish this flame, but not the warmth of community, the light of reason, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry with us until we are here together again.